Do you guys ever wake up in the morning and wonder how much BMW F20 you can get for 1,000 euros? Well, it's this much. When this neglected 116D got put up for sale, I was instantly interested. However, it was 13 hours away, but I took a risk, bought it, and got it shipped across the country immediately. The fact that I paid 1,000 euros makes this F20 the cheapest in the entire world. You're probably wondering, why was this car so cheap? And there's one reason for that. One long, broken reason. Yup, you guessed it. Broken timing chain. So actually the wheels, the winter wheels, are so nasty. Like, what even is that? The interior is so filthy. It's insane. We have at least DAB Plus, like the radio, and we have 183,000 kilometers. It does have, however, a bit better summer wheels, but it's so incredibly filthy. It is actually nuts. How can people live like that? Someone was hungry. Very unpleasant dent here that I knew nothing about, but I mean, at that price you can't really complain. So probably this door needs to be replaced. That door, I don't know. The skirt had also some damage. Yeah, and the rust on the trunk. Other than that, not bad, to be honest. Could be a lot worse. And of course, 6-speed manual. Yeah, and it also does have the iDrive. Not leaking. That is awesome. The hood, no rust, nothing. Well, this side is pretty good. New project or what, huh? Now, before we start fully wrenching on this thing and pulling the thing apart, I want to check what codes are stored in the system. And no, you do not need a super expensive diagnostic tool to do that. The only thing you need is this thing, Carly, which is the sponsor of today's video. This device lets you connect to your car using your phone. I will take the device and I will plug it in to the car. And I will go on the Carly app and press the connect button at the bottom, and then you choose the adapter that you have. So now it says that the phone has connected to the device. So first thing I will do, I want to read the codes. So I'll press on diagnostics and check for issues, which I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of on this car. Diagnostic completed, and we have 64 codes stored in the car. Health status, very bad. So the other ones I don't really care about, at least for now. Most important is the engine. So there is a bunch of codes for different sensors, MAV sensor, yeah, a bunch of different codes. You can use the smart mechanic feature. So press it and then it loads onto the page where it explains the code and the potential consequences. So I don't really care about this for now. I will just clear all the codes. The good thing about Carly is you don't need to have a premium version to do simple diagnostics on the car. However, if you get a premium version, you can do different things such as coding or unlocking hidden features. So let's try the coding possibilities for this car. So now there is 7 different modules in which you can do coding. So let's, for example, press on FEM module. So now there's a lot of different features here that you can code, such as US blinkers, engine light brightness and stuff like that. However, there's one thing I really want to remove from this car, and that is the automatic start-stop function, which is super annoying. When you stop at a red light and the car switches off and then it starts again, that's not good for the starter. 3 different choices you have when you want to remove the start-stop. The first one is what I'm gonna choose. This is that the car remembers the last setting used and is gonna stay that way. Because usually if you turn start stop off and you switch the car off and you start again, then the function is on again. Agree and code. So now I turn the ignition on, and if I press the start stop function off and I switch the car off and switch the ignition on again, it remembers that it is off. And if you want to unlock hidden features of your own car, make sure to use code EMS for 15% off. Okay, the brakes was seized. So as I said, the timing chains of this engine is broken. And that's what the previous workshop diagnosed. When that happens, the camshafts from the crankshaft loses timing completely and the pistons hit the valves. And then there's few things that can happen. Number one, bent valves. Number two, broken lifters. Number three on this car is that the whole camshaft housing, there's a whole housing that holds the camshafts, breaks as well from the impact, as well as the camshaft, they can break and they can also get bent. So that means basically the whole top end has to be rebuilt. In this case, we have no idea what has happened, if the car was driving when it happened. If it happened, for example, when it was running on idle, it could be somewhat okay, but you anyway have to remove the head and inspect everything and replace the parts that need replacing. Many people do that with the engine in the car. Then you just remove the head, you need to drop the gearbox. But when you don't have a lift, I think it's a lot easier to just pull the engine out. Or at least a lot more pleasant when you're doing the work. You don't need to lay under the car and struggle. So that is what we will do. Usually when we pull the engine out, we keep the gearbox in and we just undo the housing bolts and pull the engine out. However, I do that on automatic cars, while with the manual cars, it's very hard to align the shaft on the gearbox into the flywheel. So that can be very tricky. I think this time we'll just undo the prop shaft and pull the engine out without removing the gearbox and without removing the front end. Remove everything necessary here in the top. Then we lift the car up on jack stands and we go under and we do everything then and we pull the thing out. You know what? I actually did not even try to start it. Okay, so the engine was turning over, but it did sound kind of weird. I have missed working on a diesel engine. Yeah, this pipe, crusty as it always is. Okay, that is the intake pipe. So some play in the turbo, but nothing crazy. What I really like about this is that there's no any crazy leaks or anything like that. Everything seems to be pretty dry. Just like that. I can see clearly that this has probably never been apart. Look how much space there is here. Can someone explain me why did they put grease on the positive terminals? Is that like for better connection and stuff? Now I want to undo the intercooler pipes. One is out. Sometimes these freaking hoses can be annoying to say the least. Now in the front, the only thing that is left is the coolant pipes. Now I need to open up the ECU box. As always, we'll just disconnect the wiring loom from the ECU and just pull it out together with the engine. Okay. Let's go. Holy shit, ECU just fell out. Now the engine mounts. Okay, disconnected the diesel supply lines. Last thing I want to completely loosen. And that's the belt off. Belt in good condition actually. Yeah, so what I want to do is undo the AC compressor. So it actually seems like we need to remove the tensioner, or at least the sprocket wheels, because we can get access to one of the bolts right here. None of you guys saw that. Is there only 2 bolts holding it on? There you go. As always, we are not removing the AC compressor. It will just chill here. Okay, yeah, everything is disconnected. Super bad angle, but now I will undo the prop shaft. The gearbox is super leaky, but the engine is not. Just gonna mark the position of where it was. Now I'm removing the shift linkage and the brackets. That's the whole shift linkage itself. Okay, that's the slave cylinder, the positive terminal, which is also quite crusty. The exhaust, the flex joint in the exhaust seems to be re-welded not too long ago. There you go, and that is off. The DPF, like it's brand new actually. Oi. Okay, I put the car slightly down a bit. Put a big box under. Pull a radiator hose. Yes. Now I jacked the gearbox a bit up so it's not so crooked, and we can start pulling it out, I think. It is out. I did not expect it to be that easy to remove it. Are you free, my friend? Well, yeah, the whole DPF is holding it off. Okay, that is the DPF. Looks, I don't know, normal from this side, I guess. Now it should come off. Yes. To put the engine on the engine stand, we need to remove the turbocharger. Remove the good old heat shield. Okay. So the filter does not have any metal, but looks like it hasn't been changed in many years. When I pulled it off, even the bottom part got stuck on the filter. You can see how dark and how almost like sludgy the oil is, but no metal or no dirt from what I can see. So yeah, I think it's a good thing that we're gonna completely service this engine. Now real quick, I want to check if the injectors are not seized, because I don't know if I need a special tool to hammer it out or no. That seems pretty damn seized if you ask me. Never mind, I lied. Am I actually gonna get away with it? This injector seems to be stuck, and I already damaged it here and I don't want to wedge around it too much. I borrowed this injector tool. Technically you would need to take off the top part here, and then you open the injector and then you screw it on exactly at the top. However, the way these injectors are built, they are kind of pressure loaded from the factory. So if you take the top part off, you have to deliver them into a workshop, then you have to like overhaul it or something like that. So if you open it, it's not gonna work. So I will try to use this thing. So it will be kind of hammering this way, but it's still kind of up. So if you manage to do that, then we don't need to open it internally, and then we can still reuse it after. Exactly. Such a simple tool, but makes the job so much easier and faster. It's actually nuts. A bit crusty, but we'll clean up just fine. That's the whole wiring loom. Oh, yo! I'm gonna zip tie these pipes so I know that the way they go back together. Probably some of you guys know, but a common problem on these cars, the high pressure fuel pump. Then it fails, and then it sends shavings through all of the system, and then you need to replace all fuel system. The way you check if it has failed is you remove this sensor here. Yeah, and this one is completely clean. You can see it has no shavings in that hole. Because if it had failed, there would be immediately a bunch of shavings. It would be very easy to see. So at least that is good on this car. Now this vacuum, then also undo it from the crankcase. Then need to remove the glow plug loom. Now the favorite. As the head is still stable, I will try to remove the glow plugs. So all the glow plugs came out, just they all came out with like messed up thread on the glow plug itself. But that's usually the case because the thread in the head seems okay, so I'm just gonna clean it up and it's gonna work just fine. Okay, yep, no surf flaps, so that's perfect. And then the rail. Okay, the valve cover. Let go of my valve cover. Holy cow. That is so bad. How dark is it? I do not like this. How is it even possible that it's so incredibly dark? Like, look at it. It's, oh man, it's sludge. You touch it and it's slimy. Why do people not change their oil? Seems like the lobes on all the cams are where they should be. When the camshafts with the carrier are off, the thing is bent or the camshafts are bent, you will not be able to rotate the whole assembly by hand because something's going to be bent and it's just going to add resistance. It rotates fine, but I will need to take a better look because they could be spun. For now it seems actually good. It's insane that actually the chains lasted 180,000 kilometers with oil intervals like that. Ah, they're like grimy. Look at all the sludge. That's actually the worst diesel engine I have seen at the worst state. You have to visually inspect them very well, the lifters, because usually there's gonna be a crack here on the side from the impact this way, so it's gonna be like snapped. None of the lifters are broken. All of them are fine. Okay, so two, I'm not even sure what they are called, but like the part of the lifter inside the head. To be honest, I did not even know that that was possible. I guess we'll need to do it later. That was pretty damn heavy. Timing chain guides, original BMW. Does not look like it was blown or anything. I mean, it looks super nice from this side. I put some water just to see if it seems like any valves are bent. Now I will take compressor and I will blow air into the valve hole. Okay, so it seems to be a slight bubble on an exhaust valve on cylinder 2. So only one that is showing sign of leakage. Not easy to show because it's all black, but now I'm just removing all the valves. So I'm just putting it on the tool, push it together like that, and use a magnetic screwdriver and remove the retaining clips. Then I remove the spring. So one of the stuck lifters I managed to remove. Yes. Now I'm gonna go and spend some quality time and clean this whole head and try to clean all the carbon inside the ports. So now this is the head. I cleaned it as best as I could. There is some carbon left here on the intake side, but I mean I can't be bothered. It takes forever to remove it. It's only on the intake side. The exhaust side cleaned up perfectly. Now I'm gonna give the head to resurfacing, so it's gonna get resurfaced. The freaking flywheel fell straight on my freaking toe. Damn. Now that's not good. The oil sump, I found like piece of metal. But that to me seems like piece of the block. But I'm guessing that's from timing chain getting broken and getting wedged up somewhere probably. Ektona. Yeah, that happened. So this is the oil pump. I just found a massive piece. Oh no. I hope it's from the cover itself and not the block. Yeah, you can see these little support walls. Here it's completely smashed up. So this is where all the metal pieces in the sump was from. We can still reuse it, we just need to clean it up and remove all the metal pieces. Now what is happening here? So that's the oil pump chain, and then this is the chain. I did not release the high pressure fuel pump sprocket, so I need to put the cover back on and then we need to release it. The cover. And now the ball head is touching the tool, and I'm gonna tighten a bit more, and that's gonna push the shaft off. Okay, I guess I need to do it with the tool. Just like that. I'm not sure why I even put back the cover, because you don't need to. Now to clean the valves, firstly a blade to remove all the big pieces, and then I use Scotch pad. And it comes out perfect. And when you put it on the drill and you spin it, my drill is kind of loose, so I have to push it up with my finger. But you look at the tip and see if it's wavy or not, and then you can tell if it's bent or not. Like this one. It's very straight. Then I will repeat it 12 times more. Yesterday I was cleaning all the parts, and I was trying to clean up the engine, the grime, and I just couldn't do it. There was so much sludge and grime stuck on the walls, and it was all black. So I did wash the engine. I know it's not ideal, but the only reason I did it because it was so grimy. I really did not want to run a car like that. I will undo all the main caps and the rod cap bolts. I thought I was going to be able to remove the crankshaft, but I forgot that there's these gears for the balancing shafts. So in order to remove the crankshaft, you need to undo these gears, and I guess I would rather not to. Now, since we're not going to remove the crankshaft, we will replace firstly the rod bearings, and then we will replace the main bearings, because that's a bit more tricky. Now I'm just cleaning the journals, and I'm removing the old bearings. I picked up OEM Kolben Schmidt. Original bearings, they looked completely perfect, because on N47 engines, the rod bearings is not a problem. A problem is the main bearings. So you need to technically replace only main bearings, but since we're in here, might as well put the new bearing in. We will also check the clearance. We check clearance by using plastic gauge. It's a kind of a little rope. It's made out of like kind of rubber. So we apply a line of it onto a journal. Just cut it and put it on. Then we take the cap, the new bearing installed. Then we take the same old bolts. 20 Newton meters firstly. And now it's 70 degrees twice. This is how you check the clearance by the width. And on this engine, it's between 0.015, so even wider than this, and up to 0.050. It is actually a bit wider than 0.050. So probably 0.040, and that's perfectly in spec. Now we'll apply assembly lube, then I will just torque it to spec. It's kind of tricky, but I figured out a way to replace the bottom bearing without removing the crankshaft. I already did all the other ones, and this is only one left. So what you do, you spin the crankshaft until the oil feeding hole is outside. Then I have this little pin like that, no sharp corners on the tip. It's soft material, you can bend it easily. And what you do, put it inside the oil hole, just like that, so it's flush against the surface. And what you do then is you turn the crankshaft lightly until that pin starts touching the bearing shell. And then you continue turning lightly, and then you see the entire bearing comes out. Then you take it, then you take the new bearing, also called Schmidt, and you oil it up real good. What's really holding the crankshaft? The gears in this end. So you can kind of still lift it up slightly from this side. You lift it up with your left hand, and then you just basically slide it in. If it's not going in fully, it might be a bit harder on the end. Then you just do the same trick with the oil hole. Now I just remove the excess oil from the journal because we're gonna check the clearance on this as well. And I'm just gonna place plastic gauge and install the caps with the new bearings. The main journal clearance is supposed to be between 0.023 and 0.054. So yeah, 23, so basically this is 25, so not wider than this. And because it's 0.054, it can be narrower than this. Yep, inspect, 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 and inspect. All of them are exactly the same. It looks like around basically 0.038. Now I'm gonna apply assembly loop, also clean it up a bit, remove the plastic gauge with brake cleaner. Then I will torque it to spec, which is firstly 25 Newton meters, then 50 Newton meters, then 60 degrees and 60 degrees again. I'm not gonna show that because it takes a long time. Now I just wanna split the oil pump real quick and inspect it. I'm not sure how this oil pump works. On this side, it is the vacuum pump. Look at that massive scoring. It seems that the oil pump is shot. It probably picked up some dirt or something. And there's massive scoring on this side. The thing is, the gear itself seems decent. I need to look for another oil pump right now. So the oil pump, garbage basically. I am currently looking to buy another one. I will try to find a good second-hand one. But in the meantime, I picked the head up from resurfacing. It's already done. But now the valves. All the valves are clean and they are not bent. So technically, when you check the valves, you put it in a drill and you spin it, and you're gonna immediately see that it's wobbly or something. Or you can put it on a flat surface or on a table and check it like that. All of them were straight, so I was confused. So I took these to the machine shop and I spoke to the guy. On these engines, let's say on this top, as you can see, the valves sit flush. So they are exactly vertical, because on some cars they sit at an angle. On here, it sits exactly vertical. So when the valves get hit, they get hit straight. And after they get hit, they can be still straight. And the way to check then is you can check the length of it. So I got a digital caliper. Let's say, for example, this one is 9388. And then I check all of them. 19390. Then I check all the valves, and if there is, let's say, 1/10 of a millimeter difference, then you know it's been hit, then it's too big deviation. Because if it's hit, some part could become a weak point and it could break. Now that's all the exhaust valves. I also checked the intake valves and all of them are around the same. Some are, let's say, few millimeters longer, some are a few millimeters shorter. At least that's what the machine guy taught me. So I would just guess we got lucky. So the engine maybe broke the chain on idle. Yeah, so the camshaft housing as well. Oh, it even started to rust on the surface a bit. I need to oil it up. But it spins with no effort. Because if it was bent or something in that direction, it would not spin freely. I did forget to remove the valve stem seals because I do have new ones. I don't have a special tool, so I just use vice grips as always. So I just use vice grips, clamp it onto the thing. Now I am just grinding in the valves. The way I do it, I just put a bit of lapping compound on the seating surface. Then I dip the tip in oil and I put it inside. This time I'm doing it with a drill and a suction cup attachment, because why not? Clean off the hole as well. And then we take fine grit lapping compound and we do the same thing again. And I already did the other ones off camera. So now we can flip the head over and install the valve stem seals. So here's my valve stem seal. Put it over the valve guide. And you just hammer it until the sound changes. That's it. So now I can start putting together the timing chain. Now when it's high pressure fuel pump, there's actually kind of timing for it, even though it doesn't do anything, it's gonna run either way. So this notch on the sprocket is supposed to match with this notch in the block. So this is around it. So now when I have the high pressure fuel pump in the correct spot, I put the engine at TDC, so top dead center on cylinder 1 and 4. So then here I have the chain that I did soak in oil. So then this tensioner, and then this tensioner, 20. Oil spray nozzle, the entire tensioner, high pressure fuel pump sprocket bolt. And these bolts are torqued to 10. Now we need to torque the high pressure fuel pump bolt. And that's what you would need this special tool for. The tool is the one that holds the crankshaft from spinning and lets you basically torque this bolt. You can do it the other way. I do it by putting on this strap here and then I torque it to 65. It didn't work, so I just ended up holding the bolts on the other side of the crankshaft. And now everything is torqued and we can remove the timing chain tensioner. The head ready to be reinstalled. Now I cleaned up the surface, used gasket remover and a plastic scraper to scrape off all the gasket residue. When it comes to head gaskets, there are 3 different widths. From factory, this car comes with a 1.45 millimeter thickness head gasket. On real OEM, there's 3 different gaskets. One is 145, the original one. Then there's one 155 and 165. So you use these head gaskets when you adjust the surface. So that is if you resurface the block or the head. The head is very flat, so there's not too big difference on the top part after resurfacing. So it's not 100% necessary to use a thicker head gasket. I spoke to the machine shop guy. Since there is a middle size 155, you can use that. So that's what I did. So this is a 1.55 millimeter head gasket, so 0.1 millimeter thicker than the original one. I did flip the block upside down and I cleaned out the bolt holes with brake cleaner. I blew them out with compressed air. I also degreased the surface of the head. The head is on. One thing I want to do before we tighten the head completely on is I want to put in the glow plugs. I had forgot to order glow plugs. To all my BMW fans from Scandinavia, I have Biltema glow plugs. I did test them and they do work. So that should be good. The new bolts from Reigns. $70 Newton meters, all bolts, from middle in diagonal sequence in outward direction. When it is in Newton meters, I like to recheck all the bolts multiple times. Release all screws from outside to inside by 180 degrees. Then 50 Newton meters from inside out. 120 degrees. And the last one is again 120 degrees. So the head is fully torqued. Here I have the camshaft carrier that I cleaned up, the gaskets that sits on it. Now the lifters, they are dark, but I have washed them, cleaned them, everything, and it's just not coming off. So on with the carrier. "13 Newton meters. Good. Now I'm just gonna put back the timing tool. The way the timing tool works, this part slides over and both of the ends must be flush on the block. But you could do that with the camshaft, both this and upside down. So in the manual it says that the lobes on cylinder number 1, both of them are supposed to look towards the left. We can reinstall the upper chain, and I will put in this guide rail right here. Here I have the chain that I fully soaked in oil. Put it on the sprocket. Put it on the new sprocket that I got with the kit. And put it on the cam. Then I will slide in the stop guide, and I will clip this onto the guide bolt here that we never removed because you don't really need to. There you go. I'll put a little bit of thread sealer so it doesn't decide to leak. Here I have the new upper sprocket bolts, so I will just screw them in to keep the sprocket in place for now. You can see the block is a bit messed up here from the chain when it flew here and got kind of wedged. So I will actually take a little file. I cleaned it as best as I could. It was so impregnated, so all this, it's not gonna come off, never. That's where all the metal pieces in the sump was from. So all this walls is destroyed, but nothing loose anymore, everything is clean. So I will reuse it, it's completely fine. This part is sealed with sealant. We're gonna use Rheinsul. One more time. Technically you're supposed to replace these screws and then it's torqued to 8 Newton meters and 90 degrees, but I'm not gonna replace them, there's absolutely no need. So I just go by hand. Then I will put in the case cover. Then there are these 5 bolts here, 19. We put the cover on yesterday, but I realized when we put it on, I had forgot to put on the oil pump chain. We can't put the oil pump on yet because I don't have it. Now I had to remove the cover again, install the chain, the oil pump chain, and then I resealed the cover and reinstalled it. Mistakes, you know. But now I want to set the timing. So we were actually super close by putting it in TDC. The camshafts are in time, the flywheel is in time, so I will have these bolts at the top loose. The new tensioner, 70 Newton meters. And then the top sprocket bolts are 17 Newton meters. Then I will remove the locking pin, also the locking tool for the cams, and I will turn. The sound is the loose chain right now, and the camshafts are locked. So the timing is fully in spec. I will not be able to torque down the oil pump when we put that on because the flywheel is going to be in the way. The rear main seal. That is perfect, I think. Now the front. Another thing, I also cleaned up the valve cover as best as I could. Pretty clean, maybe a bit left, but that's just not possible to get rid of. Then the gasket. I will firstly run it on a cheap filter, cheap oil for maybe 1,000 kilometers, then I will change it again. Now, since we have moved everything around in the engine, there's still going to be some dirt left, even though I try to be as clean as possible, especially after all that gunk. Doesn't hurt. So nah, O-ring. Then I do have the new coolant flange, because that is a weak point on these engines. This. Now I'll put the jar on and the exhaust manifold, and then I will put on the intake manifold. Here I have the intake manifold. I fully disassembled it and cleaned it. Now there's nothing left of carbon inside. This is the new gasket. So the engine is together, or as much as it can be together without actually having the oil pump. I still haven't got it, I should get it soon. But in the meantime, there's one more thing we need to do. This is the pressure plate. It is what they call a kind of floating pressure plate. So every time you remove a pressure plate like that, you have to reset it internally. So you have to reset these springs, and to reset it you have to compress it technically on a hydraulic press or something like that. I'm not replacing it, so we will reuse it. So to do that without a hydraulic press, I just use a old rim. So you put it on and you need 3 pieces of wood. Support the thing on the outer lip. Then I have this universal bearing puller. So then I will find a socket that fits exactly on this thing. Then I'm taking a cup and putting it from underside so it sits on the rim itself. And then you must push this pin here all the way back together with the spring. And you release the spring. Now when you tighten it, it's gonna seat itself and adjust itself to the clutch plate. So here is the second-hand oil pump from an E90. So I opened it up and this oil pump is garbage. Heavy scoring marks. I'm not sure what he was thinking because there's shavings in the engine pickup, so he was trying to sell a freaking oil pump from a blown up engine. But he will return my money, so no worries. So immediately after I found out, I spoke to a friend of mine and he had a fully running engine, but he agreed to sell only the oil pump to me. So we did take it out and this one is actually good. This oil pump is basically as best as a used oil pump can be. You will not get any better than this. This one, no crazy wear in the gears itself. Basically nothing, only minimal. It's literally as perfect as a used oil pump can be. You can't feel anything at all. So a new oil pump from BMW is like 9,000 crowns, so that's why I didn't want to get it. But I saw that there exists aftermarket oil pumps, such as oil pump from Gearbox, or what it's called. Any one of you guys used it before? Guys, you can get it for under around 300 euros if you order from Lithuania, let's say. And I tried reading forums, but I couldn't find anything. Chain holder here. The only thing I'm not too sure about, this one is from an E90, so here it says N47. On the old one it said N47TU, so I'm guessing this is from slightly older engine. I had to reuse this part, the back part, from the other one because it was slightly different. Oil pump bolts 20. Then the middle bolt is 15. And then only the middle bolt 90 degrees. And I of course forgot to take the chain out. Six. No, actually 5. And then it is good old 90 degrees. Oil pan, I cleaned it as best as I could. I applied a bit of sealant, I spread it out with my finger. A world of troubles. So apparently this oil pump has a different pickup. And I can't use the old pickup because the oil pump is slightly different. So the bolts is in different location. So when I try to put on the old oil pan, it's not going. It hits. Here I have another oil pan and it's from the same engine code as the oil pump. And that fits. So here it is, I cleaned it up nicely. And it goes on perfectly as it should. But the main difference between the oil pan is that the oil level sensor on this one sits here in the corner and that one is more front. Right now the biggest question is this gonna even fit in the car? Is it not gonna hit the subframe? I don't know. And this is the starter. Another question is about the dipstick. I am putting tread sealer. Now the clutch. As always, I just do it from the eye. Turbo charger. Okay, I added a bunch of oil into the turbo oil supply hole. The DPF goes on after the gearbox, I think. Yes. Now I was gonna put in this banjo bolt. This is under the exhaust manifold. I'm guessing this is like some kind of exhaust temperature. The freaking banjo bolt stripped out. I went everywhere, looked everywhere, I can't find one. A bolt and basically made one for now. And in the meantime I can order one. I also ran down a tap in here, so the thread is good. Good. Then I'm also putting on a new positive terminal. I mean the engine ground. The engine bay I did clean, super clean right now. And what can I say? It's time to put the engine in. Now we are bleeding the fuel system.
Dobre, tlačíme tam na diesel, ozdušujeme dieselový systém.
Maybe bleed then.
Ozdušňujeme palivový systém, tlačíme palivo a nám to naštartuje.
Ah! It's not running. It smells so bad. The rear pads are gone, so that's what we'll replace now. And the pads, they looked like this, literally on life support. For now I'm putting on these wheels, but I do have other ones. I also did replace the front pads right now. They weren't that bad, but mostly the bolts was like seized in the back, the guide bolts, so I just replaced them. The discs in the front are in pretty good shape, just still a bit surface rust because I just drove it for a few kilometers. All the bolts was greased up, so now I'm just cleaning. Right now I'm just quickly swapping out the diff oil. So it seems that there's only one bolt and you have to use something to suck the fluid out, and then you just fill the new one up. How do I hold it? This magnet? I'm gonna use this thing and try to position. Yeah, I mean, that'll be fine. That's probably as much as I can get out. I think there should be 0.9 liters of oil. The oil I use is GL5 75W90, and I use this little syringe to put it in until it starts dripping out. Okay. We replaced around 800 milliliters, almost all of it. This was probably original diff fluid. There's no way it's been changed. Okay, nothing dripping out. Not bad. I was expecting worse, to be honest. By the way, I have driven, I think, like 50 kilometers, and I checked. The engine is super dry, no leaks, nothing. I think there should be around 1.6 liters of oil. I got also 75W90. Just instead of GL5, it should be GL4 in the gearbox. It is around 1.6 liters. I'm also not gonna advertise this random company. I think it looks so much cleaner when there's no more text. I'm gonna do the same in the front. So the car right now is on some super ugly winter wheels. As you can see, they are super ugly. I do have these ones. This is 18-inch summer tires with a lot nicer rims. I got them newly balanced. I'm not sure what style they are, but I think they're gonna look awesome on this car. The tires, very good condition. That looks pretty good so far. Here I also have the banjo bolt that I had to fabricate, so I'm just gonna replace it real quick. So now I have the engine on the engine stand, and I did remove both of the engine mounts, and I also loosened the gearbox mount because the engine is shaking a lot. So I have ordered new mounts, so I should get them today. And I also should get the side skirt, both of the doors, and the trunk. That was quite easy. Here I have new engine mounts, original Corteco, and also the gearbox mounts. So I will just swap them out real quick. So, what's happening now? We replaced the doors, everything is working fine. Oh yeah, I need to remove the letters, but the freaking trunk, How stupid can you be? I had to put back the old one, but I'm not even sure how it's possible, but I ordered the one for the facelift. So there's extra lights here. Completely different. How did I do that? I have no idea. If I need to wait more than 1 week to get it, I'll just swap it off camera. I have ordered the correct one in the same color as well. The doors look pretty good. The gap's decent. We tried to adjust it. The way you can adjust these doors, it's technically how it sits this way and how it sits this way. And you can't tilt it. At least good enough. Then the engine does not shake anymore, but I realized that it was shaking because the shutoff valve was not plugged in properly. There was a code for it, because there's like 2 plugs on the shutter valve, and now runs perfect. It used to shake a lot. Yeah, nothing. I mean, yeah, it looks a lot better than when we got it. Now, what do we do with this car? Usually, we sell projects after we're done, but me and Mario have decided to split on this car and give it to my mom. It's nothing crazy, but I mean, it's better than the Focus she has, so it's gonna hold for a few years. No? Kaip?
Oh my god.
I'm not sure if it's fit for you.
Ir spausk knopkę. So I borrowed the car to do a little test drive with you guys. Driving, you could say, perfect. I'm actually super impressed by the suspension of this car. Not a single sound, nothing. I did read the codes again after deleting all of them. There's currently only one code, and that's for the glow plugs. It gives a fault that basically they're not genuine, but that's it. They do work. I don't really care about the code as long as they work. I mean, look at it. With these wheels, I think it looks amazing. To summarize, I'm super happy what we did to the car, performing flawlessly. It looks pretty damn good as well. If you would like to support this channel, make sure to check out my Patreon. And if you want, you can become a member. But I hope to see you in the next one.